Hello, hello, good morning, happy Friday. Bear with me. I am fighting a cold, so I sound horrible right now, but I still wanted to jump on and give you all my Friday food for thought. Um, 2 years ago today actually, I walked into an immediate care center, and after a quick eye exam, I was told that I should go to the emergency room for a CT because they did not have the necessary equipment to do that kind of test at the immediate care center. So I walked over to the ER rather, and after a long wait in the ER, I was called back for that CT. And the last thing that I remember was the ER doctor telling me, quote, the CT shows that there's a mass, but it's probably not a big deal. But we will need to admit you and run more tests. So I'm going to have the nurse give you some medication to manage the pain that you're in. And so I was like, okay. And the nurse injected the pain medication straight into my IV, and I immediately went off into La La Land. And from that point on, my memory is blank, with the exception of a few glimpses of my younger sisters playing the ukulele and singing, and my older sister and my dad walking behind me as I was transported to the surgical prep room. I don't remember anything outside of that. Now, I know what happened because people have told me, but I don't have any memory of being officially admitted from the ER and being moved from the ER to a hospital room. No memory of the MRI, no memory of receiving the diagnosis, no memory of my family arriving, no memories of interactions with my doctor, no memories of the discussion around my medical options or the surgery that happened to remove that 2.6 centimeter meningioma. No memory of my time in the ICU, of being moved out of the ICU, of being discharged. No memory of the ride home or walking in my door or seeing my dog Taz for the first time. No memory of sleeping in my bed for the first time that first night back at home. There's a large gap of time that it's blank in my mind. And because of this, I lived in a world where I knew that the core of who I was had changed, but I couldn't pinpoint how and why. My physical recovery was incredibly fast, very, very fast, but my mental and emotional recovery is ongoing even today. And over time, as I asked more and more questions about various aspects of my time in the hospital and the weeks of recovery that followed, I began to kind of piece together what I had been through. And the pervading message that I was getting from everyone, my family and doctors and everyone, was that the outcome was the best that it could have possibly been. The tumor was benign, the surgery was textbook, my recovery was quick, and it all happened so quickly that I truly had no time really to comprehend any of it. And while I knew I was forever changed, I felt I didn't really have any real reason for that feeling. But there was this yearning in me to understand and know what happened in the gaps of time that were blank in my mind. So, 6 months later, I called my older sister and I asked her to walk me through everything in great detail from the beginning until my memory kicked back in. And I listened, and she talked for a really long time. And I just listened. I didn't ask questions. I just let her replay it all from beginning till I remembered things. And I cried a lot. The conversation lasted over an hour, and this was a pivotal point in my mental and emotional recovery. The gravity of that time was finally sinking in, and I began to finally identify why and how the core of who I am was being changed. It felt as though I had like ice cold water just dumped over my head, or as if someone was just taking my shoulders and just shaking me to wake up, or like someone was just lighting a fire under me. And we've all heard that saying, live life to the fullest. You never know what day will be your last. And I never really thought about that really much at all prior to my surgery. I didn't know any different than the way I was living. And while the tumor I have is not life-threatening and the surgery went as smoothly as possible, there were any number of complications that could have happened before, during, or after that surgery that could have changed the outcome in a really big way in just the blink of an eye. Now, everything in my life is defined by whether it happened prior to my surgery or after my surgery, with the old perspective that I had or my new perspective. Prior to my surgery, I was climbing the ladder in my field. I was dreaming about things I would do in retirement. I was acquiring all the stuff that showed the world that I was successful. Why do we do this? Why are we spending our money in ways to impress others? Why do we climb the professional ladder by default instead of considering if that's really what we want? Why do we choose a career to satisfy others or even an unrealistic childhood dream? Why do we plan a spectacular life for when we retire? Never before had it been so clear to me that I may not make it to retirement. And if I do, there's no guarantee that I'm going to be healthy enough to make those dreams happen. Not because of the remaining tumor, the likelihood of it growing again is really, really low, but because I had experienced firsthand how life can throw major curveballs at us. Thankfully, the curveball that was thrown to me was big enough to snap me out of a routine life, but not so curved that it has stopped me from making changes based on the lessons that I learned. Why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? Why are we waiting for retirement to live life? Why are we waiting for a new year? Why are we waiting for a Monday? In reflecting over the last 2 years, I can see how drastically my perspective has changed. My perspective, my goals, and really my life has changed. And all I ask is that please let my story be your wake-up call. Feel me reaching through this screen and grabbing you by your shoulders and shaking you and telling you, wake up. Stop planning for things that you know deep down are never actually going to happen because you're not going to do the work to do it, to make it happen. Screw the freaking bucket list. Dream big and then make it happen now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when you retire, but now. You'll have an awesome weekend. Mwah.